So let's start by introducing our first two panelists for Tropical Battery. And we have with us CEO of Tropical Battery, Alexander Melville, who is no stranger to this show. He's also joined by Assistant Vice President at NCB Capital Markets, Richard Samouj. Welcome, Alex. Welcome, Richard.
Thank you for having me.
Hi, good night. Thank you for having me on.
Great to have you. Alex, the last time you were on this program, you were talking to us about the acquisition of Rose, and that was just a really interesting development. Things have changed so much since then. Now you're launching this APO. Is there any apprehension because, you know, the market has reacted generally not really liking the term APO?
That is a great point. Certainly that has been the case historically. However, as you can see, our APO, I think our stock price is up since the announcement of our APO. And secondly, I think the one key differentiating fact is that we're actually transitioning from the junior market to the main market. And we would be the first company to ever do an APO and transition to the main market. Most APOs are done by either main market companies or junior market companies that stay within their respective markets. So I think the transition by itself, which, as you know, when you move from junior to main market, gives you greater access to liquidity from larger investors, pension funds, and such on. I really think it's, as we can see so far, it seems to be taking as a positive.
Yeah, and let me just share with the viewers the charts for Tropical Battery since you guys announced the APO or SPO, whatever you're calling it, same thing. So here we go, here on My Money JA. You closed today at $2.16. The APO opened on May 22nd. So you're at 213, so you're up a little bit. And the trajectory since around the time that you announced has been looking good. It's been up.
Yeah.
So yeah, good to note. So tell us, why do the APO or the SPO at this time? Why come to market now? And what is the purpose of the funds?
So this was always planned in our strategy. And it was all about acquiring a business. In about 3 or 4 years ago in our annual report, when we listed in 2020, we were like, we want to grow outside of Jamaica. We want to, and part of that strategy is to grow into larger markets like Dominican Republic, which we grew into and invested in 2023. And just in 2024, we invested in the US through Rose. And I think those two investments are yielding good returns. And I believe that these is a part of our vision, our strategy to grow outside Jamaica. And one of the big reasons for that is we are already 65% of the battery business in Jamaica. And so 60 to 65%. It's very hard for us to get to 70, 80%. And it doesn't make sense. So we started to look at new products and new markets and larger markets. So the timing, to your question, the timing, the acquisition, there was 4 or 5 other companies bidding on Rose. And so our plan was to try and do an APO first and then buy Rose. However, the timing was, they had a closing point to submit your bid. We had to take a bridge loan to actually meet the timing requirement. We were lucky. We won the bid. We weren't the highest in the bid, but the previous owners felt we were the right fit, like in core values and culturally, everything. And our offer was, fairly close to the highest offer. So happy about that. And that's why we're doing the APO this time. We've shown the growth. Our sales are up 100% on last year. Gross profit up 112% on last year. EBITDA up 103% up on last year. Our net profit not looking as good because of the high interest costs related to that bridge loan. And this is why this APO is going to raise that money and pay out the bridge loan financing. You can't buy a business or invest in anything without putting in some equity. And what we did was we bought a company of 100% leverage, 100% debt. So we need to put in the equity component, which is what the APO will achieve for us. Raise the money, pay down the debt, so that that interest can fall directly to the bottom line in terms of profit, and allow us to continue to grow.
And let me tell our viewers that later in the program, we're going to be talking to the CEOs of Rose and Kaya as well, your two recent acquisitions or fairly recent acquisitions a little bit further down in the program. I'm very interested to hear from them because you mentioned the numbers. The revenues are up, EBITDA up, profit not as solid, but because of the one-off acquisition cost. Let me bring Richard back in. Richard, we were talking about the share price a little bit earlier. Tropical Battery closed today at $2.16. The APO price is 187, is it?
Correct.
Yes, 187. So what led you to that price? Why is that the offer price?
Well, of course, this being an APO, we know we do have incumbent shareholders who wouldn't want to dilute themselves, but certainly maintain their holdings at a significant or a reasonable discount. For the last 3 or 4 trading days, it has closed above $2.15, and that is a 15% discount to market right now. That's what's listed in the prospectus. So one of the benefits of applying through Go IPO is that you'll get this offer at a 15% discount off the bat to where it's trading. So that certainly is enticing for not only new entrants, new shareholders in Tropical, but those who are already holding the Tropical since NCB Capital Markets did launch this company on the Junior Stock Exchange in 2020. It's a second chance for you to get in at the ground level.
Right. So let me bring in some questions from the audience because the audience is rearing to go. They have a lot of questions about this offer. So Shells wants to know, will the APO completely erase the bridge loan?
Probably 70% of the entire financing. And it will, our debt is structured in 2 components. One is at a fairly reasonable interest rate, single digits, and the other one is fairly significant, effective cost at about 17%. And that we are certainly going to take out the 17% one shortly right after the APO. And that will save us probably 70% on last year. If you look at our financials cost last year was $400 million finance costs.
Wow.
So we believe that, 70, and that was only 8 months of the finance costs. Because remember, we bought Rose in January of
What
last
was the interest rate on that?
17%.
17.
17%. So you can see that, and again, that's the norm for bridge loan financing. It's like preference shares because it's almost like quasi equity because it's high risk because you're buying an asset that was outside the country. They're taking risks, so they charge a higher rate. So I think that's a norm for that type of risk. However, we have proven that the business, after a year and 4 months now of investing in it, the business has certainly performed well, as I stated earlier in the numbers, 100% up growth, boom, boom. So it seems like and is a great asset that we bought. We didn't buy a house or a car that devalues. We bought a company that earns money and has rail sales that over 50% of our sales now are earned in US dollars in the United States. And that company actually ships to 35 countries around the world. So very few companies listed on the stock exchange can boast that they ship currently to 35 countries around the world, which I think helps diversification for investors and just makes them feel comfortable about not all of your earnings are on this island.
And as you noted, not just earning money, but earning US dollars, importantly. Yeah. The question coming from Devon. Devon wants to know, can you assure people investing in the APO that the delayed report was not a loss?
Well, I certainly can't comment about anything related to posting our numbers. The JSC would not allow that. We have a delay. It is awful timing. However, because this strong growth, tripling our sales in 4 years and particularly in the last month, we have had to bring on that fast growth has created some, system issues, some double checking of making sure that everything is everything. And we have just hired this month a new group. We didn't have a group kind of CFO person. And so we have hired a group financial consultant, which started this month, May. And she is reviewing the numbers the first 6 months. Obviously, we're audited till September. So our audits are current and our audits are solid. 5.6 billion of revenue last year, audited accounts, and coming from 1.8 billion in our IPO. So she wants to take the time to go through those numbers and just make sure that everything is 100% spot on. So that's causing a delay. Again, fast growth does cause delays from time to time, and that's where we are.
You mentioned moving over to the main market, which will happen if the offer is fully subscribed, which also means because Tropical Battery listed in 2020, so it's been 5 years. So moving over to the main market means that you're going to forfeit the remaining 5 years of tax benefit. Is there any apprehension about doing that?
Great question. We looked at 5 years, you pay 50%. So you're paying 12.5% anyway. So we were going to move from 0% tax, corporate tax, to 12.5%. We have modeled out with our US and Jamaica tax treaty, our effective tax rate as we move on to the main market is probably going to be about 17.5%. So we don't feel that is any, those 5 points, it was worth it to continue to grow, quickly as we've been growing and move to the main market versus worrying about taxes. And when we model it out, it made more sense in terms of earnings per share. We project to be earning 25 to 35 cents earnings per share, even after the dilution of the APO, within a year or two. And of course, our highest earnings per share as a junior listed company was 15 cents per share. So when we model it out, it makes more financial sense to move to the main market because we want to continue to grow.
Interesting. So in line with that question, we have some other questions from the audience. Philip wants to know, why not choose to list Rose on the main market and keep Tropical on the junior market to maintain the tax break?
Great question. We have a philosophy that the diversification of the three businesses we think creates more value, and we thought that it just makes more sense to us and it creates more value. So that's the reason.
Next question, also about dividends. So we spoke about the profitability. I did get this question earlier in the week from somebody saying, what's going on with Tropical Battery and dividends? I think I know the answer after looking at, your reports and your numbers and what's going on. But no dividends were paid in 2024. Why was that? And how soon do you anticipate a return to dividends?
Yes, we've paid dividends 3 years out of the 4. Well, 2021, I think we listed in 2020 late, 2021, 2022, and 2023. We did not pay dividends in 2024 because we bought Rose in 2024 and took on this high cost bridge loan. So it just made it wasn't prudent for us to pay dividends and have this high interest cost. As soon as we retire the high cost bridge loan, we will then return to dividends, hopefully by the end of 2025 or early 2026. So we are very pro dividends. As a shareholder, I love to receive dividends. So we will be back on that dividend program, shortly.
Yeah, and as you anticipate a return to profit, not return to, you didn't lose profitability, but a return to increased profitability as a result of paying down the debt. Now, Richard, looking at the way APOs typically perform on the Jamaican market, what do you anticipate is going to happen, after these shares list? Because I'm seeing comments here in the chat about what might happen after the APO shares list. Yes, the price is up now, but typically they say when the shares list, you start seeing, the share price falling off.
Okay, that's a fair question. If you look at the day when the prospectus was published, which was May 12, the offer price of $1.87 and the trading price did converge to about $1.85. So you saw that immediate drop off. But since the offer has been officially opened on May 22nd, and NCB Capital Markets did publish its research paper, its extra analysis, which showed a 1-year forward price of $2.75, we have seen that uptick towards $2.15, 16. So upon closure and distribution of new shares, we do expect it to remain above the $2 level. There wouldn't be much rollback, because otherwise, then why hasn't the stock rolled back to the offer price or maintained at the $1.87 offer price as at today? So we do see creeping forward slowly, and it's because people are realizing the accretive value in this company, this monster acquisition, which has doubled top line and EBITDA in the space of 1 year. And mind you, that's only 8 months of Rose performance. That's not a full financial year. And Oh, I seem to have lost light here, but I'll keep going. But given that you've seen 8 months of the performance, when we slowly retire this debt, our portion of this debt with the APO, and then with the refinancing of the 70% that's in single digits later this year by the summer, you'll definitely see a bottom line that is heading up towards maybe 200 to 300 million, and that does indicate better dividends for shareholders and growth.
No, I don't know what happened with your light. Is it a motion sensor? I know sometimes it's a motion. You just have to give it a little wave and you get back the light. But Alex, so are the bulk of the funds going to be used for paying down this debt? Do you have other uses for the funds as well?
90% of it will pay down debt. 90%, and maybe there's some other working capital or new projects that we have that could use some boost. Some large solar projects we've been looking at with Kaya here in Jamaica and also in the Dominican Republic, and some of those need like a equity component to it. So, but yeah, 90% to 95% of it we feel is the best, most effective use. Again, we've already grown. We have organic growth. We're up 3 times since listing in IPO in terms of growth. And our EBITDA, everything is up three times. Our EBITDA used to be $100 million. It's now 500 million. It's significant growth. Now we just need that money to fall to the bottom line. So in 2025 and 2026, no more acquisitions. It's just all about reducing that debt, the interest cost, having that fall down to the bottom to shareholders, net profit, so we can pay dividends, and then use that extra profit to reinvest and continue to grow. We have a mandate. We are going to, the next 3 to 5 years, I hope to be double again from where we are today. Doing 10 billion in revenue.
Yeah, I saw way at the end of your prospectus that you're looking to do 7.5 billion this year. And also you just tacked on quite neatly at the very end, almost the last page, that your grand ambition is to eventually list on the NASDAQ.
That is correct, yeah. We just feel that Rose is a Silicon Valley company. I've also had a dream, and I just put it out there. And I'm a strong believer that if you don't have a target, you're going to miss it every time. So you got to put targets out there. You got to put goals out there. If when we listed, and I told people we're doing 12 million US in revenue at the time when we listed, 1.8 billion. If I'd have told them that we're going to be doing 45 million US just 5 years later, less than 5 years later, they would have told me that I'm going to do 3-4x my revenue. They'd be like, I don't think so. But now we'll do 45 million US this year. The fact is, if I continue to double and triple, I think we'll be sizable enough to be interested in looking at something like NASDAQ. If not, we stay listed on the Jamaican market and continue to grow it here as well.
Before I bring in your associates from Rose and Kaya, those last few pages were very interesting reading from your prospectus. So talk to me about some of the work that Tropical Battery, your core company and core business, is doing, and the plans that you have to grow that core, because you're doing a lot, especially with renewables and targeting the electric vehicle market.
Absolutely. We the acquisition or the investment in Kaya, their expertise, which is a 14, 15-year-old company, helped us and CAC win a huge over $500 million MSET project, which is 20 government buildings and putting in solar and efficient lighting. So that growth is not even in our numbers yet, but will take place in the second half of the year. But we're in the process of doing installations and building out those 20 government buildings right now. So we're very excited about that growth, and that's here, just core in Jamaica. So our solar is growing quickly. We also are trained to service electric vehicles. And we thought that we again found from one of our partners, associates in Dominican Republic, there's a company down there, 7-year-old company servicing EVs, doing incredibly well, making great service income. And also it completes the whole cycle of, you can have solar, storage in your battery, and then you can also charge your car for free. We currently have cars on the road now that used to be heavily on the road at Tropical, $100 and something thousand a month in fuel costs, now down to nothing, little $20,000, nothing in terms of charging costs, because most times we charge a car at office with free for solar. So the cost of operating electric vehicles is just ridiculously cheaper than operating a combustion engine. A combustion engine has like 40,000 moving parts, and an EV has 400 moving parts. 400 versus 40,000. So just less problems, less stuff to break, less things to whatever. It just makes your maintenance. So if you want to save money, EVs are certainly the way to go. And especially if you then put solar at your home or your office has solar, it's again an incredible savings. And that's what we're doing locally in terms of new products in our core business. Yes, we're not giving up anything in our lead acid battery car business. We're opening our 7th retail store right now. We'll open by probably the end of next month.
Where is that?
Yeah, in Tropical Plaza. Yeah.
Halfway Tree.
Yeah, Halfway Tree. So we'll have 2 branches in Halfway Tree, one at one end and one at the other. And the new one will be the 7th retail store will be more focused on the newer products like solar and of course EVs and things like that. We also sell electric bikes. We've been selling them for more than 2 years. We sell solar panels. We sell a lot of inverters. A lot of our new products that are in the market are going to be more showcased in the 7th retail store in Tropical Plaza.
I remember when you guys did the IPO in 2020, and I interviewed you here on this program, and a lot of our viewers were saying, why invest in a battery company right now when the world is going EV? And here you are with the innovations targeting the EV market. So I like that you have expanded to consider that and to consider the trends in that direction. Now, Richard, before I let you go, just tell us how we can apply for this particular offer.
Sure. The first step is head on over to goipo.jncb.com. Let me give you some high-level details on the offer. It officially opened on May 22nd, closes on June 6th. It's a first-come, first-served basis, and it's at $1.87 a share. Minimum purchase, 1,000 shares. So that's roughly $1,870 plus the JCSD fee of $172. So you can be all in with a minimum purchase for $2,000.
Jamaican dollars.
Jamaican dollars, yes. Jamaican dollars. We made it certainly very retail friendly because you do want to have that very stable retail base. You don't want to have large investors moving in and out and creating sharp jumps in the stock. And that's the purpose of transitioning to the main market. So, of course, you can go on all our social medias, NCB Capital Markets, and leave DMs and queries as to how to be a part of this. Or you can email ncbcminvest@jncb.com. And, of course, you can walk into the branch and visit NCB Capital Market site and ask a wealth advisor. Let me just add also that while, of course, we do appreciate all Jamaicans and all participants to open an NCB Capital Markets account, once you have an active live JCSD number, you can purchase through the Go IPO platform. You don't have to be a customer. You don't have your brokerage or client account at NCB. You can buy and place your JCSD account number, and it goes to any broker of your choice, any of the registered brokers in Jamaica.
Perfect. So no reason not to participate.
No
Thanks,
excuse. So even if you're with the competition, you can still come through Go IPO.
Thanks, Richard. I meant to say, I call you Chris just now. So Alex, let's introduce your 2 affiliates now. We've been talking a lot about Kaya and Rose, your 2 recent acquisitions. We have the CEOs of those companies joining us, and let me give you the honor to introduce your new affiliates.
Yeah, really I'm honored. A part of success is teamwork and management, and finding companies and leaders of those companies who share similar core values. And so certainly we took our time. I think the due diligence process with Kaya was over a year. The due diligence process with Rose was probably shorter because of a little bit more hasty, but around 6 months. But we knew right away that these persons and leaders of these businesses shared the similar core values. So Karina and her husband started a business in Dominican Republic 15 years ago. And I'm gonna let her tell the story, but certainly she's the CEO of the Kaya business. And I think she can start and introduce herself and get going. And hopefully Chris will join us shortly.
Hi, Karina. Great to have you on the program. So tell us
Hi,
all about Kaya. What does Kaya do?
hi, Kalila. Well, as Xander said, Andrew, my co-founder and partner in life as well, we spent years working across the world, and we both witnessed that energy is more than a utility. It's basically the technological leap that is transformational for countries like the Dominican Republic. So we came in 2011, and for almost 15 years, we just got to work from policy to introducing the technology. And yes, partnering with after almost 10 years doing business here, 15, I'd rather we partnered with the Melville family and have been since then just leveraging our strengths. Kaya is a turnkey solar engineering firm with experience in the Dominican Republic, where we finance, design, install, maintain, and operate solar systems in the Dominican Republic.
And that's
So,
your primary market? You mostly operate in the DR, or are you expanding outside of that country?
well, we're expanding outside of the Dominican Republic, mainly Jamaica. It's a great, Jamaica has an outstanding market precisely because energy costs are almost double than the Dominican Republic. You guys have also a net billing system where you don't get the same amount. It's not one for one credit as we have in the Dominican Republic, which we will be moving to a net billing system as well. But it allows Jamaica and companies to store this energy and grow from within, make it more profitable, cut costs, and benefits for a more competitive market.
What's it been like working with Alex and Tropical Battery for the past 2 years?
Oh my God! Literally, we were, as Andrew said, we were speaking for a year, and Andrew and I kept looking at each other. It's like, is this for real? Like, can you really, have fun? And it reminded me of my early days when I worked in tech all over the world, in Dubai, London, New York, where you were just moved by the passion and the determination on where you're going with such clarity. And like Sandra said, just the team makes so much difference. Starting with values, the Melville family come from legacy, great service and quality. And just by getting to know each of them, we just said we just want to work with these guys. And then came along Chris, and I think we call ourselves the dream trifecta, because we're just literally working a group of companies working towards the future of energy, and we have great complementary strengths.
So are you guys like fully integrated now between Alex, or Xander as you call him, yourself, Karina, and Chris? Do you work as a team, or do you operate as three separate entities?
No, definitely as a team. Definitely as a team. We meet once a week, and then every quarter we do more of a deep dive into our strategy and goals that we've set for our companies. And I think I'm gonna let Chris tell you a little bit more about how we operate together.
Chris, great to meet you.
Yeah, great to meet you. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's been great working with Tropical. I was talking with the prior CEO of Rose, who's now on Tropical's board, and said I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, and there hasn't been another shoe. It's a great group of people to work with. There's fun problems. I came up as an engineer, so I really love solving problems, and I'm always excited to be able to add value, and the problems that we have are all kind of interconnected. We're all dealing with the same kind of supply chain problems. We're all kind of in the same space, but not really. So we all have, as Karina said, complementary strengths, different areas of focus that we can use in each other's business to help each other grow.
Yeah. Why did you end up going with Tropical Battery when that offer was made? Because Alex did say that there were bigger offers, there were better offers. What made it a good fit for Rose?
Yeah, I think even the outgoing ownership realized that to maintain a company requires more than just having an owner. A big part of that is the real alignment in values, the transparency, the genuine joy of working on solving things together. And Xander was obviously driven to get that closed. He worked all of the angles that he could up to getting bridge financing to make sure that we could close on the time horizon that the outgoing ownership wanted, and that really made the difference.
How is what you do different from what Tropical Battery as a core company and its core operations does?
Sure. So Rose has been in business since the early 60s. So Tropical's got us beat, but not by a whole lot. We started as a rep firm and started selling batteries, and then have progressively gotten more and more complicated. And we very rarely do distribution now. Everything that Rose is focused on is really mission critical battery packs that are designed to solve complicated problems. So as we've grown, we have moved up the value chain and have focused on bigger, more complicated batteries for more difficult problems. And what Tropical does in distribution is actually a very complementary, because we have the advantage of being able to look into that supply chain and make sure, our costing at the volumes we operate at are in line with what they should be, from Tropical being able to do higher volumes. And being able to leverage all these different companies in different areas also helps. I saw a question in the chat about the tariff situation in the United States. Having facilities in different locations definitely helps to mitigate some of the concerns there.
I was about to ask that question.
Yeah.
So they want to know how you're going to handle the new tariff regime and the uncertainty in the US.
Yeah, and Rose is really uniquely set up to do well in this unfortunate set of circumstances. The tariff has to be paid for everything that's coming in, and especially things coming in from China are significantly more expensive. I think that tariff stands at 30% right now. But the way Rose has worked to mitigate that is we lean really hard on our facility in Mexico, and we work very hard to make sure that we maintain USMCA compliance, which is the US, Mexico, Canada trade agreement. And as long as we have 60% of the product coming from the US, Mexico, or Canada, things can move back and forth across the border for free. So what Rose does is we bring things in bond to our facility in Mexico, so that we're not paying tariffs until that bond is broken. And we have the ability to pay attention to the landscape for tariffs. And if we think tariffs are going to go up, we can break that bond while it's in production in our facility in Mexico. Otherwise, we can keep that in bond until that material crosses back into the United States. And then we would pay tariffs as it ships to our customers. So we get an invoice as we're invoicing, to make sure that cash flow is stable the way everything needs to be set up. And another important thing to keep in mind is most of Rose's real competition is outside of the country. A lot of it is from Asia, and the cells themselves are around 30 or 40% of the cost of the battery. So Rose only pays tariffs on that 30 or 40%, and we source as much of the rest of it as we can in countries that have trade agreements, and specifically focus in the US, Canada, and Mexico to maintain USMCA. So we only pay tariffs on 30% of that, while all of the competition that's coming out of China has to pay tariffs on the full loaded cost of that entire battery coming into the US.
Is all your manufacturing done in the United States?
We have a facility in San Jose, California, and we do about a little bit less than half of our manufacturing there in the facility in the US, and the other half is done at our facility in Tijuana, Mexico. So everything starts in San Jose. We do all of our design and development, engineering, samples, all of that starts in San Jose. And after 2 full production runs in San Jose, we evaluate whether or not that is a product that could move to Mexico. And that's all dependent on the customer's desire to be in Mexico and the volume of the product. And if we do move it to Mexico, that's when we do a lift and shift. So we move all of the equipment and all of the fixtures and everything to our facility in Mexico and continue production there.
I have to say, Alexander, I'm really impressed with how you've brought these companies together, these complementary companies, and you're developing a global brand. Like I see it happening. I see the vision.
No, I appreciate it. It's really enjoyable working with people from all over the world, people with great experience. And I would add to what Chris says. Not only when we shift stuff to Mexico, then we start to make a higher profit margin because of the labor cost in Mexico is cheaper than in California. So the business model is very solid. And the other thing that sometimes we're even to avoid tariffs altogether, what we do is any of the cells that we get out of China, we ship them to Mexico. And many, and not many, I would say probably 20-30% of our customers, many of them want, we manufacture, assemble in Mexico and ship them directly back to where they need them, whether they need them in Denmark, EAU. Again, we ship to 35 countries. So sometimes the product don't even touch American soil. So they pay 0 tariffs going back to those set of customers. And that's just a smart way to avoid the tariffs altogether, because the products don't even come into the US for certain of our customers, which I think is an advantage that we have, having those 2 facilities, one in Mexico and one in Silicon Valley.
Last question comes from Shells, and this is for Xander. If the offer is oversubscribed, will they take the money and just pay off the complete bridge loan?
Great question. We are debating that. Certainly, we would pay down more of the bridge financing, but I still think we should leave a little extra growth capital. So if we get to the 2 billion mark, maybe we keep, we pay now 1.9 instead of the 1.7, and we keep 100 million just to help us grow into other new projects. Because we do have, one of the beautiful things that we have a pipeline of projects coming, and that either we're gonna finance or use our profits to grow and use. So I really we're in a really advantageous position where we have more business than we can actually deliver right now.
It's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
I remember you telling us about launching on Amazon as well. Lanesra wanted to know how the Amazon sales are going for Tropical.
Not very good right now. So, not everything works exactly as planned. We haven't been able to launch it. We got the patents, and we announced that a few months ago. We got our trademarks approved by Amazon, but the supply chain to get some of our products into the Amazon warehouse fulfillment centers has taken longer than we had anticipated. But I'm sure before the close of this fiscal year, we will be on Amazon and selling. So that is another opportunity that we think is going to drive us to a different level. There is a diaspora market in the US and elsewhere where our products that are manufactured in the US that we ship to Jamaica, some of them like car brake fluid, tropical battery windscreen wash, certain products are already there. They are the ones we're starting with first on Amazon and sending to those fulfillment centers. And so I think within the next 2-3 months, we should be starting there, and that should generate more revenue and profit for sure.
And last question for Chris from Rose Batteries. What are the plans to increase Rose Batteries customers outside the US? I know they already have customers in other countries, but what's the plan to expand into more?
Yeah, Rose is ready to ship anywhere in the world. We have well over 100 years of experience in the company, in the battery industry. We know regulations around the world. We have customer inquiries come in regularly, and the important part for us is really finding the right fit. We want to find customers that are a real partner for the long term. We're not really interested in building batteries once or twice. We want to be working with these customers as they develop new products, as they move into the future. So a lot of our business is about finding the right people who are looking for the right solutions to that problem. We work really hard to be chemistry agnostic. A lot of competition works, only with lithium-ion batteries or only with specific chemistries. And Rose works very hard to know all of the chemistries that are in the market and be able to work with brand new technologies like lithium, silicone, and sodium batteries, and be able to push those things into the market where they're the best fit for our customers. So it's really about finding that right fit and finding those customers. And we'll continue to get back out there. We're working on a number of different campaigns with LinkedIn direct outreach. We've just updated our website and branding. We're doing a lot of webinars and getting back out to trade shows, which we took a break for a couple of years of being at trade shows and really working the shows to get more customers. So we're getting back into that, and that's put us in a position now after doing those trade shows this year to have the biggest backlog we have in our history in our development team right now. So
awesome stuff. Alex, I'll give the last word to you before we wrap up.
Thank you. I mean, again, just what an honor, and grateful for being here. Grateful that our team is aligned, and somewhat believes in me and the team that 80% of the senior leadership team all own shares in Tropical Battery. So and several are buying in our APO as well. So just to share with you that not only have we drank the Kool-Aid and for the last 4 or 5 years we're growing, but even the new investors, and I say partners, we really run ourselves like we're partner companies, Kaya, Rose, and ourselves. And we are all shareholders. Karina's a shareholder, Andrew's a shareholder, Chris is a shareholder, and Chris is in the top 10 shareholders. And I think that that commitment to believing in where we are going by owning shares is speaks volumes. And the second thing I would mention is that in our investor calls and all we're seeing so far, the estimate is something like 70% of the take-up is going to be large institutional investors, pension funds of that like. And that's the indication we're getting so far. Our book is significantly advanced, and that says to me that we are going to be a long-term play for them. They're not buying the Tropical to flip it in 6 months. So which is why I counter the argument and why I think we're going to be different than the average APO that may have trades up and bounced back. I think we have a long, steady growth ahead of us because the people who are investing in our APO are long-term investors, 3-5 years, not 3 to 5 months.
Well, all the best with this offer, Alex. I really do hope that you guys reach the limit that you're trying to raise and even make it oversubscribed so you can pay down that debt and do everything that you want to do, because I think this is a really impressive company and I'm happy to see the growth that you've reported. So thank you for joining us this evening, and we'll look out for when that offer closes and the reports and the shares listing on eventually the main market of the stock exchange.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And I'll be here when you're ready to list on NASDAQ too. We're going to talk about it.
Absolutely. Have a great evening.